You're now plugged in to the Delphi podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Delphi podcast. Today we got Krish and Jordan here from Internet Game, or RekTech, which is what we're going to be, diving into ASAP. Yeah, honestly, really excited about this. Internet Game is like a Delphi Porco. We've been, big supporters of these guys for years now. They've done a lot in the space, but what they're gearing up to launch in the next few weeks is something that honestly is like really exciting for me and something that I've been watching these guys build for a while. So yeah, let's just dive straight in. Instead of even going into the history of Internet Game, which we can do later, I'd love to just start off by giving the people like, what is RekTech in like the simplest terms, and what should they look out for?
Yeah, I think the simplest way to explain RekTech is basically us trying to make the most exciting game show possible that anyone can play from their home or their laptop or their mobile device. It's tough not to talk about the history of Internet Game just because it's really relevant. And the short thing is that we launched like a Squid Game style competition way back in the day, 2022, gave away a bunch of Bored Apes, and then had 8,000 people that had one of the most exciting weeks of their lives, according to them, resulted in several tattoos. Like it was that kind of week of people playing 5 games elimination style and, gunning for it. And we always wanted to do it again once the bull market came back around. So we've really been building for the last 2 years, 2.5 years since then, and asking how can we make this way more exciting and interesting and add all these different components that we didn't get to build last time because we were doing it in a rush as just an experiment. So RekTech is like a multi-month or perpetual everyday game show that's launching right now, and we have 30 different games. We have the first season, like the first big one, like 4-day tournament, 4 games with thousands of players, is Penguin Games. We're giving away a pudgy penguin and then a bunch of other prizes that people are going to be voting on as they play. And really the secret sauce of what makes this exciting is the games themselves. They're not, people try to pigeonhole us as a Web3 game, and that's really not the case. We're not trying to make another Fortnite or something like that. We make hyper simple games that anyone can play, but that really fuck with you. Basically, we call them mind games. So, like for example, one of our favorites from way back in the day that we're definitely bringing back is called Backstab. And the idea there being that you get matched up randomly with another player. You don't know who they are. You have an anonymous chat between the both of you. And you have 24 hours to decide if you are going to screw each other over. You have 3 options: to backstab them and they'll be out, to collaborate, which will give you like mid points, but it's safer, or to hide, which protects you from being backstabbed, but you get like 0 points. And you can technically do anything. You can send a Zoom link to get to know each other, or you could just pretend you're AFK and hope they backstab you, and then you'll just hide. But very, very simple game. We just made this in JavaScript the first time around. Like we didn't really know what we were doing, but people lost their shit. So yeah, that's really the magic of it. Krish?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think just generally speaking, in the simplest terms, it's games anyone can play, anyone can win with crazy prizes on the line. And I think the other big thing to know about RekTech and our kind of mechanics is that, for us, it's like not this thing that like is going to really pull you away from your life, your work. Even if you're the busiest person, even if you're Anil, running Delphi, like you'll have time to play our games. Each game's open for 24 hours and each game only takes 5 minutes to play. Can you spend 8 hours, talking strategy with your friends or in the Discord? You can, but you don't need to. And I think that's the beauty of it and what makes RekTech so accessible for the market.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, I love with that context, like giving some context from the Delphi side, right? So obviously our team has been super vocal about how bullish we are on crypto gaming and how we really do think it's going to onboard, the masses and millions of people into crypto. What's interesting to me though is like, obviously we have a lot of different perspectives at Delphi, and a lot of our gaming team is always really focused on like the AAA games and the games that are so, like hours on hours on end. And obviously, I like a few of those games as well. But for me, I've always seen kind of the biggest promise in being in these small like mini games, especially with like, people's attention spans getting shorter and shorter with TikTok. So, we've had, conversations for years now, even with what you guys did with Internet Game, like, I don't know how to call it, like V1 or whatever you want to call it, right? In the Squid Game style. I thought that was like genius because it was almost bringing like that HQ trivia energy into crypto. And, you know, over the years, I think it's been really cool to see how you guys have adapted. And that's something I definitely want to talk about later too. But as far as RecTech goes, what's been most exciting to me is how you guys have kind of brought everything you've kind of like built over the years into like one kind of like finished product, and then are now just gonna unleash it into the world. So like, you know, and the last thing I'd say here is like when I think about onboarding normies into crypto, you know, we've tried with DeFi, we've tried with like all these different things that us like on-chain degens love to like play with. But I really see it as like four main categories as being like the things that really pull people on chain. One was really airdrops, which I think did really well in past cycles, right? But now you do need like a kind of like sizable amount of capital as well as time to really spend to, you know, earn some of these big airdrops. Then two, I think is like meme coins, which is like obviously the, you know, most flashiest and kind of like the biggest and the biggest like winner of this cycle. But even then, you kind of need capital. And I think the other two are, you know, Deepen, which I think, you know, is something that our team and a lot of people seem to be really excited about coming into this year. And then four is just like games. And I think something that seems so akin to people who are not in crypto yet, but can kind of understand like, hey, at the very least, I'm getting some type of entertainment, some type of reward, some type of dopamine hit, right? So how did you guys think about like, you know, in this current, you know, market, you know, with all this meme coin craze, where does like RecTech fit into that? And how do you think it'll like, you know, who's your target audience as well, both within crypto, outside of crypto? How are you guys thinking about that?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's like a lot to unpack there with what you said. And I think that, you know, because there's obviously things like Web3 gaming, but, you know, for me, at least from our perspective as people that have effectively built games, you know, for now years, I think one of the interesting things about the market is that when it comes to Web3 games, there's people that are really into Web3 games, and then there's just like kind of traditional retail where they're a lot more focused on kind of you know, meme coins and NFTs and these kind of speculative assets, make money, lose money, repeat. And I think the other thing that's really interesting is that you do talk about kind of onboarding the masses. And that's also a really kind of funny thing. And the thing that we used to joke about all the time is that like everybody has like, there's so many different kind of people that are in crypto that have friends that aren't in crypto, that aren't interested in Web3, that think it's stupid, that like don't get your NFT obsession, that don't get your meme coin obsession. But you know, internet game and then even RecTech now, you know, I think the thing that we found was that we were actually very, very effective in kind of onboarding the masses into Web3. And I use that word lightly. But what I mean by that is that we were a lot of people's first and only NFT mint. You know, when people would often say that, like, oh, you know, I'd show this to people that I work with, I would show this to my friends and my family, and they'd be like, oh, this NFT actually makes sense to me. Like, this project actually makes sense to me. This is a cool thing. I actually want to try this. I don't want to try and flip NFTs. I don't want to try and flip meme coins. So I think that we do have this like accessibility, you know, for the kind of people that aren't in Web3 just yet. And then simultaneously, I think when it comes to the people that are in the market, again, the accessibility, the ability to, you know, play a game really, really quickly that is kind of crypto native in its sense, that does have this kind of degen component to it. Like we refer to us often. It's like when we always say that, like, you know, people hear internet game or RecTech and they hear a game show and we're like, it's more like Wordle than it is, you know, Fortnite or Shrapnel or something like that, right? It's something that is quick, it's easy, but it's still a game. And so I think that when it comes to you know, where we fit in the space, I think that we still have very like a really strong draw to the market that is effectively trading meme coins, just because of how easy it is to play and how it isn't like this thing that requires hours and hours of time and focus. Ledge, anything I forgot or?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely built it for people in the trenches and for normies. What's something I like about it is that it's super egalitarian. Like, you know, if you're in a great cabal, you know, and you're really early to certain coins, that's great. If you're not in a one of those groups that gets in early, like this is something where you have just as good of a chance at winning as somebody else. And the games themselves are not they're balanced between luck and skill. So you actually have control over it, but there's enough chance that truly anyone can win. So that's fun. And then on top of that, you know, like Krish and I don't have time to play Fortnite. Like I'm sure it's really fun if you have 100 hours a week but you're just too busy trading meme coins or whatever. So something that's exciting is that we've built in a ton of the elements of traditional video games that are really fun, like loot boxes and characters and all this into RekTech. So we have characters called Dreamers that are coming out in about a month, or even gamifying how you get that, like the top 1,000 people on the leaderboard from playing all these games now will get on the allow list for it. But then when you have a Dreamer, then you can open loot boxes. Loot boxes each contain one like trait or cosmetic, like hair, eyes, clothing, etc. And then you can equip those to your Dreamer, and each of those items has a different rarity and it has a multiplier associated with it based on the rarity. So the more rare, the higher the multiplier. So your total multiplier is like the amalgamation of all the things equipped to your Dreamer, plus your play streak. And that applies to every single time that you earn XP. So if you play in Penguin game and you get in first place, you get 5,000 XP. But if you have like, say, a 10x multiplier because you have a sick Dreamer, then you'll get 10 times that. You'll get 50,000 XP. So there's games within games within games on top of this game show. And that's something we're really excited because it's, there was only one game way back in the day, and now there's like many ways to play and optimize and have fun.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and I think that kind of also talks to, again, there's so many different types of participants in Web3. Like, and I think that's one of my favorite things about it is just how global it is. But at the same time, you have people in Web3 that like pay in time. And then you have like people that are really, really busy, the whales of the world that pay in money, right? And so, for us, building kind of these like meta games or macro games on top of the actual game show was another thing that we spent a lot of time thinking about, which is like, how does the busy whale participate in RekTech versus how does the person who's just like there every single day, they don't miss a game, they don't have a Dreamer because, maybe it's out of their price range, but at the same time, there's still ways for them to win a pudgy penguin or to generate XP that can, have lead to like later ecosystem rewards and things like that. We really did kind of cover the spectrum there of the different types of participants, which we thought was really important.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's kind of why I gave you that layup question, because I know, in my conversations with you guys are so kind of like, have that attention to detail to think about every part of the stack. And I think this is something that a lot of other products in the space either don't have the ability to do, right? If you're a big DeFi protocol, sometimes like, the ROI is just worth it just to focus on, just the whales. But in this product, I think what's beautiful about it is you do have that like surface area to be able to kind of like service many different demographics within crypto, right? And I think like, obviously it's so easy to kind of like bucket you guys into, gaming because you have these mini games and everything. But I think, to be honest, transparently, I think the gaming is actually the least interesting part about what you guys do. Because honestly, the mini games are awesome. They're a lot of fun. And even Delphi, we've had like team game days, like, once a month for a while now to help test out these games. And to be honest, it makes a lot of like our analysts miss calls afterwards, right? Like every time we have a internet game, Delphi game day, reports are late that week. But I'd say that like a lot of what you guys focused on is more so like the culture and like the social aspect. And I think that does play into like you guys being able to service all these different demographics. But I'm also curious, like, and I know this is kind of like, embedded in your DNA, but I'm curious, like, how do you guys see RekTech? Like, obviously not really fitting in that Web3 gaming bubble, but like more so in this social culture bubble that you guys have like had way more focus, way more attention to detail on.
Yeah, our original intention with starting this company was to really get good at making interactive entertainment. Like less so in games, yes, but like more so, how do we make social media actually social and live and interactive? Like, why are we on Instagram just going and looking at things that people have posted in the past, and like the only thing that's social is like the comment section, but it's not really that social. So we loved HQ Trivia, loved Pokemon Go, games that really brought people together and gave you this like live, exciting feeling that you look forward to. And yeah, Internet Game Season 1 was just an experiment in that went so well that we just kept going down this path of like game shows are really where it's at. So that's the thing that I think is most difficult to understand about what we've built is the social nature of it. Like we've used Discord as the social companion to the games, and it really is a huge part of it. It's probably like 80% of it really. Like one of these games playing by yourself, not or with and without stakes, not that fun. With stakes, very fun. And then with social, with like 60,000 people in Discord that are all like faking screenshots of fake scores to dupe each other out of thinking they're doing well in a game, or like people collaborating on GitHub repositories where they're trying to like break our games and hack them together or organically forming teams and writing smart contracts to commit to splitting the rewards if they win, things like that. That's what really makes RekTech exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the way that Ledge phrased it is exactly right in the sense that I think RekTech, because the games are so simple, there's just such an opportunity for kind of co-creation from the community, where the community itself, the people that are actually playing the games, have the ability to make the game so much more than they are because we leave so much space for that, right? So these examples that Ledge just mentioned, where people literally formed teams and like had created a separate Discord where they were talking strategy, taking turns streaming, all that kind of stuff. Taking turns playing the games, learning from each other, all that kind of stuff were things that we'd never anticipated or expected. But I think that it really kind of lends itself to really the way that Web3 operates, right? I think something that we often noted is that, and I often say this too, is like it's like crypto is a team sport, right? And it's like you can be in a team of four, which is like you're just like really intimate Telegram group where you guys are sharing alpha. You got you got your team of 40, which is like maybe a DAO that you're in, or it's just like a larger community of some sort of NFT that you hold, or a Discord, etc. And so I think that the cool thing about RekTech is that you can kind of play it amongst all of those different layers, right? Like you can be, people at Delphi can essentially like, all play in it, and you guys can be talking in Slack about the scores that you got that day. But then at the same time, there's other groups where I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can talk about it and like participate in RekTech at so many different levels, which is why I think we fit in more with kind of crypto culture and the kind of social component to it. Like our vision, our like kind of the way that we'd feel like we really really made an impact specifically this cycle with RekTech is if the RekTech game that day, that week, that experience is like something that is a part of CT and is a part of the conversation that's driving things forward.
Yeah, nice, awesome. Yeah, because like then let's kind of like get a little bit more into both the history and kind of like where you guys are going. Because and I don't know how much you want to share, but like the way that I see, and yeah, like maybe this is just my perspective, and you guys can like correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that I see what you guys have been building, both with Internet Game V1 as well as like RekTech, which is kind of like a culmination of all your years of like having this team that ships super fast, ships super well, and then kind of like gamifying that surface area in the social cultural components to build on top of those games. And I love that Jordan, Ledge, you kind of brought up this like like experiences, these like app experiences almost. It's more akin to that than games, I'd even say. And I know like you have a lot of big plans for the future because RekTech is not just like a end goal of a it's obviously an end goal of like a big vision you've been working on, but really in my mind it's like kind of the start of you guys starting to really show kind of crypto and the world at large like what you guys have gotten really good at time and time again. So I'd love to kind of take a step back and go back to Internet Game, but before that, like is that like a good way to like frame it? And then like how I feel like the focus right now and probably what you want listeners to really like understand from this pod, take away from this pod, is really just like what RekTech is going to be over the next like few weeks, right, with these games and everything like that. But I think what's more interesting than me is like this is just like the start of building up both reputation on one end via these games and stuff, but then also building up your contributions to the space with more than just mini games, other experiences and stuff. How do you think about that?
Yeah, we really want to use crypto as a jumping off point to make the world's biggest game show. We mentioned HQ Trivia a couple times. Like that was amazing. I think that it failed for a number of reasons, and one of them is that most people aren't good at trivia. You play it a couple times, you're like, I'm never going to win, and if I win like 10 cents, right? So yeah, and we love crypto because everyone here is so willing to take risks and like try out new things. It's such a great place to try risky things and have people like ape in really really hard, especially if you allow them to capitalize on it. So yeah, what we really want to do is have something where it's tens of millions of people around the world playing something asynchronously, so you don't need to be online at 7 p.m. And do partnerships with major brands. We always use Taco Bell just because Caesar was involved with bringing back the Mexican pizza. But yeah, we would love to do like a, Taco Bell RecTech, have, your mom's playing, right? Because we made it really easy using Privy for people to just sign in with their phone number or whatever and play. And the first prize is like free soft tacos for life. Like, I think that'd be super fun. Um, yeah, Krish.
Yeah, I would say that, that's like kind of the big like vision, right? But when you think about like again, like because Anil, I think there's like kind of two components that you phrased there within that question, which is like one was like, what made the internet game special? And then two, even in the near term with RecTech, kind of where we going specifically, even before we're doing the Taco Bell and all that kind of the Taco Bell X RecTech thing, which would be freaking awesome. But I think the thing about internet game, which was the reason that we stuck out, and it was so funny because I was at a dinner yesterday and it was one of those rare moments where someone's like, "Oh, like who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm Krish. I'm one of the founders of Internet Game." They're like, "Whoa, Internet Game?" And like I'll say that never happens to us. Like I think that we're very much a if you know you know project, where the people who have heard of us were like, "That was so cool. That was such an innovative thing." Because what we were doing at the time, it just kind of hit the kind of cultural chord in the right way at the intersection of like NFTs being super hot and kind of that Squid Game, um, you know, I guess moment, right, where that kind of captured the entire globe. And so, I think that for us, the thing that we're especially good at, as builders, as creatives, is this idea of just kind of identifying these trends and finding ways for people to kind of experience these trends in what we refer to as like a novel but familiar way. And so it's like something where like this hasn't been done before, but it's very easy to understand. And I think like that's kind of like when we think about the stuff that we like to build and the stuff that we like to do, that's really kind of where we focus on. And I think when it comes to like RecTech, especially in the near term, right? Like what you said is exactly right, which is like I think in a lot of ways what RecTech is really developing a foundation, for Web3 for participants in crypto. And would it be amazing if a bunch of people who haven't really participated in the space got involved as well? Yes. But I think that for us, what we also aim to do, especially over the course of this year, is really just kind of build a lot of things around the RecTech brand that drive a ton of attention. And because I think that's such an important component to Web3 more than anything. And frankly, with this particular market cycle, and is like there's such a kind of flavor of the week mentality. It's so different. Like I gotta say, like as somebody that like marketed in 2021, 2022 versus marketing in 24, 25, it's such a different world. Not only is the infra so much better, but like the impulsivity of the space, the flavor of the week of the space, the meta of the space, like it's on fast forward. And so being able to kind of key into moments while also having like a really strong foundation with that's supported by really great tech, which builds trust, and then the ability to capture attention over and over and over again, I think is how you're gonna have to win this cycle. So that's a big area of focus for us as well.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think like, I really hate analogies and metaphors when it comes to companies. Like people will say, hey, like, are you guys building, for Delphi, they'll say, are you building the Bloomberg or A16Z or, Y Combinator or crypto? And we'll always kind of laugh and just say, no, we're building, the Delphi of crypto. And even though I say that, I'm going to do this on you guys. And I know you guys are building the internet game of crypto, but the way that I kind of see it is like, Internet Game V1 was like Squid Game, right? Akin to Squid Game. I'd say RecTech is almost like HQ Trivia. I think that middle stage of right after RecTech, the way that I'm seeing it is like almost like Mischief, right? Like that big brand that does like all those crazy things. And then I'd say like the very end goal is like this Red Bull like thing. And I think like all of these kind of like build together and build this flywheel with one another, right? So, maybe let's go. I think we spent a lot of time on the RecTech angle, which, I'm happy to come back on towards the end. But maybe now let's take a step back and go back to, the Squid Game, the internet game V1. Because, to your guys' credit, and I know we didn't start this pod with like giving you guys your flowers on that. I thought that was one of the coolest moments of last cycle where you had this kind of like coordinated, like, and I would love for you guys to kind of give some context on like how it worked and everything, the numbers, the size, because a few things that I remember were like one, the NFT that was purchased was like almost like a ticket to this amusement park, ticket to the Squid Game, right? So it was like a depreciating an NFT or appreciating if you were, got past each round. So I thought that was a really cool aspect. Then I think you guys went above and beyond with getting G Money as like a partner to like help host the games and doing that in person in that studio with like all the visuals. That was like really sick. I think people should go check that out. And I know you guys are cooking up some cool things for RekTech. And then I'd say like the other thing that was really interesting was like, right after we gave you guys money, I remember catching up with you guys like a week or two later, and you guys were like, oh, like we spent a bunch of the money that you gave us on NFTs. And we're like, dude, what the fuck? Like these guys are just trading NFTs with their money. But you guys actually bought, pretty good NFTs because they actually ended up, I think the price pool went crazy up in value, and then use this as kind of like the marketing, the go to market for the project, which I thought was like, genius as well. So yeah, maybe give some context for everyone on, where, because I thought internet game itself could have been something that you ran multiple seasons on. And even in calls that we've had together, I've been like, guys, like that was a killer product. You just keep focusing on that. I think it's really cool that you guys have kind of challenged yourselves to keep exploring what it means. And I think this is kind of building towards that mischief that we'll cover next too.
Yeah, the first 3 seasons were really fun and special. Like I said, we were trying to explore, what to do in the world of interactive entertainment. We had a couple different ideas. Like we had like a live dating show. We had like this Judge Judy concept. It's not even worth mentioning. But yeah, and Squid Game was really popular at the time, so we're like, hey, it's like screw it, let's make that the first experiment that we do. Let's make a Squid Game on the online, sell tickets to it. Had stumbled on coding NFT contracts for fun on the side, and so we had just happened to get into NFTs around the time Bored Apes were really popping off, and decided, hey, let's like spend a good chunk of our pre-seed funding on a Bored Ape and make that the thing that we wave the carrot that we wave in front of people's faces, and because everybody wanted one. So made a gutsy call to do that, bought the first Bored Ape, and then coded everything up, figured out how to do Discord marketing at that time. And then, yeah, we did the mint of the game token, which was the ticket you mentioned. And there was actually a lot of interesting innovations that happened at that time. We actually did as far as we know, one of the first like open edition NFTs. Everything was about like scarce small collections at that time. And people actually, it was like almost fuddy because people didn't get it. But we're like, well, it's a ticket to an event. Why would we set a cap? Like that makes no sense. We had like the price went up as more were sold, but yeah, technically it could have minted out forever. So it did that, and then had these 5 games with the Discord. Each game was 24 hours long, super simple, like we mentioned. Like one of the other games was one of those memory tile games, right? Where there's like a grid of tiles. You flip over 2 tiles. If they're matching, then you got them and you keep going. If they're not matching, then they flip back over. And we called it mem fucked because it would fuck with you if you got things wrong. Like every few tiles, it would like the outer row would rotate, or like 2 of them would flip, or like the entire thing would start just spinning while you're playing the game. And the idea was your score was based on how long it took you to find all the matching tiles. So dead simple. But very stressful when you're playing it, right? Very, very exciting. So, and then we had elimination also between each of these games. And so there were your game token, if it was still in the game, became more valuable, especially if it was higher up on the leaderboard. We actually had to hack OpenSea's metadata refreshing to make this happen, because dynamic metadata like also was not a thing. So we were like mass pinging their API for all 8,000 game tokens, and also locking them during the game so people couldn't like do poorly and then sell it immediately. So there's like a lot of stuff that we were doing that was difficult to do, and it's still not really done. And what ended up happening is, if you were top 10 leaderboard right before game 5, and you really had a solid chance of winning that Bored Ape, your game token was worth a lot. And there were people that sold out their positions last minute, which is probably a smart thing to do. Yeah.
No, I think that, yeah, we always joke that we lost years of our life running season one of Internet Game. But yeah, I mean, just like Ledge mentioned, there was just like a lot of really really cool moments, and like even I'll never forget it. Right, like the day that the season one ended was the same day that ape the ape coin, I guess, launched or something like that. And so we're looking at each other. It's like 7 in the morning, and we're like about to send out all these prizes, $2.5 million worth of prizes. And and like we're like, what do we do? We have like effectively like $500,000 of ape coin in these assets. Yeah, and we just like immediately we just like knew it was the right thing to do to give the ape, like the unclaimed ape coin, along with those assets. And I think that's the other thing that was really really cool about this is that both first place and second place were effectively first place. It was two bored apes. So if you were in first place or second place, you got a bored ape with unclaimed ape. And what's so cool about Internet Game and then thereby RekTech is that the person who came in first place, he bought 80 tickets, 80 tokens, right? So he spent a lot of money and it paid off for him. The person who came in second place bought one token, and won, right? It got the same prize as first place. And, it was so crazy. Actually, Anil, I think you were on this space during the launch of season two. And it was the first time that I had ever heard this story about how his life was just changed now. He was able to leave Turkey and move to Canada and restart his life. And it was just one of the most, like, kind of frankly, most beautiful things that I'd ever heard. And you don't really realize the impact that you can have on someone's life when you do work in Web3. But it was one of those moments that just really made the season so special.
No, absolutely. I remember that story, and it was like, yeah, literally was like so emotional, and no one was expecting it. Like we were kind of shit posting on this space, kind of joking around about how much how much fun all the games were, and then this guy kind of like just unmuted and just like made us all like bawl our eyes out. Yeah, and I think like one thing I love about you guys is like you guys even though you guys are building mini games, you guys very think very long term, right? And I think you're probably one of my favorite teams to be able to scheme up any different ideas with, because not only do you have that kind of like crazy open mindedness to like listen to these crazy ideas, but as soon as like you think of even if the idea is like the dumbest shit you've ever heard, which I know I've definitely given you some of those. What's cool is I know Jordan, you especially, you just start thinking about how you break it down into how to actually build that idea immediately, and it's kind of like insane to see how you guys are able to do that so quickly. So I guess like this brings me to skipping over the HQ trivia section, which is RekTech, which we covered. Going into Mischief, right? This is probably something that I've told you personally that I'm most excited about for you guys to like try is and attempt and kind of like start rolling out. And I know what's been really cool is you guys almost started this with this big grand project, so your biggest project ever with RekTech, and then you're gonna start almost with a ton of small projects that will build on top of what RekTech has like kind of launched into the space. So like I don't know if you guys can give like any hints. I know one is coming out very soon, just to like start exploring and showing people that you guys can fuck around and find out. But yeah, I'm curious how you guys think about that phase of what you guys are building towards. And yeah, like curious.
Yeah. So I think what we're best at is building and shipping. Like our team's incredible. So good. And recently realized that we have even more bandwidth than we thought to make cool stuff just because of AI. Like discovered Cursor over winter break and I was like, oh man, like actually this makes me able to code 100 times the speed. It's totally insane. Like I got time to build extra stuff. So we'd always wanted to do drops like Mischief, like these just one-off viral stunts to bring attention back to RekTech. So we are going headlong in that direction right now. So yeah, we got the full RekTech thing, which is already a massive undertaking, but has been built for a long time. And then we have RekTech drops that are coming out. And each of these is like fun, silly, trying to like take the piss out of CT a little bit. We almost pushed this podcast because we're launching one like right after this. Like my computer is currently scraping the history of millions of tokens that have been launched on Pump Fun for this particular drop. So I'm hoping it's not like slowing down the video speed because yeah, there's been like 7 million tokens launched on there. Anyways, that's for the drop. That'll go live after this. So if you see that, have fun. And then we have other ideas ranging from like one-off games that we're gonna do that don't really make sense for RecTech, but as a one-off experience, and then just making sure everything ties back into RecTech. So it's almost like we hired a marketing company for RecTech, but it's just us building more stuff that we think is fun and silly and weird.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that, like, again, we kind of alluded to it earlier, right? But like this particular cycle, there's so much impulsivity. There's so many different types of assets now, and so many interesting things that you can do in Web3 with these tokens that, like live, like that are again flavor of the week tokens, and different types of experiences that are cool today, but old news in 2 weeks. And that's, so again, like I said, it's just so different from how the market was last cycle, where people were like super excited about this project that's going to come out in like 3 months from now. Like now it's just like, even when we actually, what's funny is that we actually did a drop in like November of last year, and it was basically, Neil, if you remember, it's our meme coin simulator that's called Devil Rug. And basically what that was is it's a crash game, but it has this concept where you basically are buying into a meme coin, and it will eventually go to zero. But the question is, how much money can you make before you get rugged? This game, when we dropped it, was played 300,000 times by, like, I think almost 12,000 people. So a lot of plays. But what was crazy about it, and I think this is where a lot of aha moments came from, was that I think over 40 pump fund tokens launched around that concept. And like that really kind of, I mean, it had such a impact on us as builders, just because we're like, holy fuck. Sorry, I don't know if you can curse on here, but yeah, holy fuck, like this is crazy. This really is such a different behavior, where basically we dropped this really interesting piece of tech, this thing that was super fun, the thing that like kind of caught crypto Twitter by storm, and then people were like, oh, like tokenize the concept. And I think even like of course there's 40 pump fund tokens, but I think one of them ran to like $10 million, like within, like, I don't know, 3-4 hours, right? And we kind of shot it down. We're like, no, that's not our token, like please don't get rugged. So, but I think that behavior, it really says a lot about where the market is. And I think what you also mentioned with kind of our capability to do two things. One is like kind of come up with crazy ideas, but then two, actually execute on them in a way that's effective and that works. And then you kind of mix that with the various Web3 assets that can exist in the space, and then you tie it to this larger brand. And I think that makes you a very, very interesting, attention grabbing brand.
Yeah, totally. I think, like, in the near term, I know you guys have a ton of ideas that you're gonna launch in this like mischief era, right? But something that we've talked about a lot too is, I think, your like demand side is actually way bigger than just you creating marketing for RecTech and internet game as a whole. You guys have the ability to kind of come up with these clever creative ideas for basically anyone who is vying for attention, right? Which is essentially everyone. So in my mind, I think like what you guys have gotten really good at, which is these ideating but also executing, like shipping and building these ideas. I think it's going to be, I almost see you guys akin to like Mischief in this agency format for a lot of these crypto projects, crypto teams that are constantly looking for different ways to, capture attention. And I think like, obviously with, what we've seen with like platforms like Echo and Legion, where projects are looking for ways to get their token supply in the hands of the community. I think you guys are actually another potential launchpad for that in its own way. Not just for like, oh, people who play mini games to earn this, but people who do experiences that prove that they are a value add token holder or value add member of that community. I think you guys are going to be able to come up with like a lot of cool ways. So, my prediction, I know this isn't on the roadmap or anything, but I've said this to you guys, recently too, is like my prediction is one of your biggest sources of demand are going to be probably projects and builders, hopefully that are listening to this podcast that want to reach out and say, hey, I want to get, and I don't know what you guys are calling it, whether it's like a mischief season or something like that, or like the year of mischief, right? Because like, I think you guys are going to end up launching a bunch of cool shit this year. A lot of which we don't even know what you guys are going to work on. I think this is something that I'd say any builder who's listening to this who's working on like a protocol that, maybe isn't the most interesting, or maybe it is interesting and just it's hard to capture attention in this like market where like, attention is so like, liquid. Talk to these guys, because like I think there's going to be a lot of cool like B2B things that will also give you guys way more leverage,
Oh yeah.
right?
No,
Yeah.
you nailed it. I mean, I think like, obviously the word agency is something that we're relatively allergic to, but I think partnering and kind of co-branded things, because there's things that they can bring to the table. Like anyone that we work with, there's things that they can bring to the table, whether that's prizes, whether that's audience, etc. And then there's things that we bring to the table too, which is just like really awesome kind of creative, interactive content. And, I mean, Ledge knows more than, I mean, we both, I guess we've now seen this over the last couple of years, which is like, so many people would come to us, so many, and they'd be like, hey, can you build a game for us? And we're like, it's not what we do. So we just charge you like an astronomical amount to the point where it can't make sense. But the point, and that's more so a joke, right? But like the reason that we say that though, is just because the thing that we found is that, and you see this too as a gaming investor, is like building games is really, really expensive. And even if you do pay the money for it, it doesn't mean that your game's going to be good. And so, you have these two challenges there for really anybody that like is interested in interactive content. So the ability for us to kind of partner, and I think that's another really kind of cool thing about RekTech and even internet game is, and it's funny, our friend was the first person that kind of said it to me, where he said the really interesting thing about internet game RekTech is that you guys are like format first and then like lore second. Like you guys don't, like most of these games, it's like, oh, in the year 2049, and there's like a like some sort of storyline associated with the game. We're just this kind of gaming platform, and so that allows us to really kind of attach to anything. So frankly, like, I mean, I guess pseudo confidentially, right? Like, we talked to one of the largest like DeFi projects I think last week. And what was interesting about it was when I was talking to him, I was just like, I think that there's something really interesting about kind of marrying like kind of consumer crypto or something fun and exciting with DeFi, because otherwise, you have, think about like even something like Jito versus Pump Fund, right? It's like Jito is like this really kind of awesome, like staking solution where you can earn, SOL from just, holding it with them. But people are like, nah, I'm just gonna put money into Pump Fund and like just like probably lose it. And I think it's just because it's like, what does liquid staking even mean, right? So it's like, how do you actually kind of combine something like, how do you combine like a very like kind of sexy front of house with something that's really exciting? Like, what does consumer crypto and DeFi look like if you put them together? And I think those are things that we can actually explore in a really cool way.
Yeah. Yeah, partnerships is built into everything that we build. Like RekTech itself is an open platform, or not open, but for people that we like, it's open. So like, for example, like Eclipse, like it's a, full chain going live this year, huge, huge, huge community. They're currently running, or they're doing the marketing and a mint for running their own tournament on RekTech. So that's happening next week, right? Like there's gonna be like 4 or 5,000 people playing from Eclipse. They figured out it's a fantastic way to gamify giving away stuff, and engage your community. We didn't mention it, but yeah, back in the day, in the early days of internet game, the third season that we ever did was with Lionsgate for the Saw movies for Halloween. We were shocked as anyone when they emailed us and asked us to to do that. And it was a crazy experience, but yeah, we're looking forward to working with a ton of people in the Web3 space and also the Web2 space, and figure out how to make something wildly exciting for their fans, and just make the world more fun and exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the salt thing too, especially with, what we were talking about earlier about like, the Taco Bell partnership and things like that too. I think those things aren't far off at all. And I think, this goes back to you guys being very long-term builders, because, last when you had these seasons of internet game, I remember having conversations with you guys where there were, a ton of games that had raised a bunch of money and had not shipped any games whatsoever. And I remember you guys getting reached out to a bunch of these games and said, hey, can you help us build at least a mini game with this IP that we've raised 50, 100, plus mil from. And, that was a direction that I think probably would have distracted most. And I love that you guys kind of like stuck to your guns and kind of like forged your own way forward, which, RekTech obviously took a lot of time and effort, and was not like clear that that was the direction you were going in, but you just knew that this partnership road, at least with season one of Internet King, was just not, something that was most interesting to you. Whereas maybe with this mischief kind of style and everything like that, would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, I know like the last one, the last part of it was like this Red Bull kind of like crazy dream, like vision. But maybe, I don't know if you guys have anything to talk about that yet. I feel like mischief is kind of the more important thing to execute on right after RecTech, because I think even though you're still executing on RecTech, I think RecTech is like right about at launch. So you've done like, I don't know, 80-90% of the work, whereas mischief is about to be, 0 to 100 every fucking week, every 2 weeks, whatever you guys think. So I'd suggest people like put notifications on for you guys. But yeah, I'm curious how you're thinking about the Red Bull portion.
Yeah, Red Bull portion. I mean, we think the stunts that Red Bull does are awesome, right? And those are less like Mischief. Mischief is like launching some, you know, cloud T-shirt with Fred again or something like mostly like physical products, sometimes digital experiments, and then Red Bull's like making someone jump over a volcano on a, on a motorcycle or something. So we're interested in both of those types of things, and that's really something we'll get excited about a little bit later down the line after we've built up this brand and can do bigger partnerships like with brands like Red Bull and doing IRL stuff when we have more cash to burn. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that I think I mean, the way that we look at it, I think, is just that like when we like there's a joke, and I mean that we call it like phygital marketing, right? Like, and I think the idea is that like, okay, yeah, this was a stunt of some place, of some sort that took place in some place, but it was consumed online, right? It's getting a million views online from people all over the world. So it's less about like, oh, this tree fell in the woods in this particular location and that's interesting for some reason, but it's about, like what's the type of reach that it gets because of the activity that took place. And so, I think that at least the way that I viewed is that like mischief is like kind of digitally native kind of stuff, right? Where it's like something where it doesn't matter if you're in Estonia, Tokyo, New York City, or I guess San Francisco. It's like you can access this thing. And then I think the Red Bull kind of portion to it is something where it's just like, what are like really kind of interesting things that we can make happen that also are kind of wake people up, that jar people, that like kind of break people out of their just autopilot. And I think that's so much of what we aim to do with RecTech, and with the platform that we've been given thanks to folks like you, is just like kind of create these awesome, like, is this real? Did this really just happen? Like, am I playing this super simple game for $500,000? Like, is this real? And kind of creating that experience and that pattern interrupt over and over and over again through just as many ways as possible, I think is just something that is really exciting for us, and something that we luckily have the capability to execute on in a way that a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I mean, the world today is tough. It's like increasingly overwhelming. Like things are speeding up with AI. It's like scary. California's on fire. The wealth. There's more divide in the rich versus the poor. Like it's intense for a lot of people out there. The world's super overwhelming. So I think it's a really ripe time to create something that does make a certain day or a certain week something that people can really look forward to, and actually make normal life more exciting and give them something more to do, something on your phone that you want to check, that's not just like Instagram notifications or something, which are just getting exhausting. It's not even fun anymore.
I totally agree. I think a lot of the time I spend with a bunch of our poor co-founders and just teams building the space is just helping them not walk off a ledge, right? Like, building is super fucking hard. And I think building in crypto is like 10x harder, right? There are so many decisions to make, but there are also so many distractions. And I think you guys are probably a team that I've really kind of like been super, inspired by, because you guys have kind of like never wavered. I'm curious, like, what advice do you have for, other builders, other founders who are, because I think you guys are like very in the pulse of the market, right? Like I can talk to you about anything that's going on in crypto and you know exactly what I'm referencing, especially shout out like Eugene, right? Drake Capital. But like also at the same time, you guys are such long-term builders. You've been working on RekTech for over a year now, right? We've been like talking about this for so long. So like, how did you, keep your heads down, keep building through it, and then while at the same time kind of like leveraging what's going on around you to implement that and integrate that? Like, how do you pick and choose?
Yeah, look, I think that there's like a couple things here. One is like, this sounds cheesy, but like, it just kind of like, you got to trust your gut a little bit when it comes to, things that you like. Because, if you're kind of always trying to follow trends and stuff like that, and you don't really care about what you're doing, like, you're not going to be successful, or not, you're not going to be successful, but it's just that the chance of you being successful by being a kind of fast or slow follow to something, I think that specifically in crypto, like, people generally speaking kind of like own spaces, right? So like, I think that like any kind of meme coin launchpad is going to have a lot of trouble, whether they were fast or slow, just because I think that there's just like a lot of ownership within kind of categories. So I think like, doing things that you really like is really, really important. And then again, the whole idea of like novel and familiar, which is like, how are you kind of making this better, not cheaper, but like better. I think the other thing that we are, I mean, frankly, Ledge more than me, are really good at is this idea of kind of killing your babies. This is like that's like a term of art in kind of creative work, which is like, you get so attached to an idea, but then you realize that like, and especially again, like you mentioned it with RekTech, like you've probably seen, Anil, like, I don't know, like 6-8 versions of RekTech. And like every single time we're like, all right, cool, we're at bedrock. Like we've found it. We've hit rock. Like we've finally landed on what it is. And then we're like, oh man, like this needs to change, or that's not right, or this is too far away from kind of what the market wants or what the market expects. Like we need to be a little bit more thoughtful here. And frankly, our devs are so patient with us when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'll say. But I think that's such a big component of it as well, is just like having kind of flexibility to evolve while working on stuff that you really care about. I think those are the two things that I'd probably say to anybody. I'm curious to hear what Ledge thinks.
Yeah, pretty much that. I think maximizing iteration speed.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. If you can, like we've talked to you about, Anil, being able to launch a new thing every week, but yeah, just setting things up so that they're built in such a way that they're flexible, and creating frameworks so that you can move really, really fast and it's not painful to switch directions on a dime. I think that's the number one thing that pays dividends, in addition to just following like an MVP mindset, which sometimes we don't even do when we're trying to build a big thing. But yeah, like launch fast, launch early, and change quickly. Be nimble.
Yep, that's awesome. Yeah, guys, to like wrap it up, I guess like what are the main takeaways you want people listening to this episode to have, right? I guess like the two that I would say as like an outside participant is like, one, make sure you play these RekTech games. Again, they're like super easy. We're actually doing like an internal tournament in Delphi right now, which I'm currently number highest score. So, Delphi peeps are slacking. And then two, I'd say like notifications on for like, where is all this mischief stuff coming out? Is that going to be like separate Twitters, separate, like, I don't know how you guys are thinking about that. We haven't talked about that much, but like, is just notifications on for RekTech Twitter? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, just follow RekTech and you'll get notified about the drops. And then I'd say in general, like it's really difficult to understand how exciting these games are unless you've played in one of these tournaments. So even if you're like just try one out, be in the Discord, feel that being in the hot seat type of feeling, and then judge from there.
Yeah, and I'd say that obviously if you're listening to this podcast, you're a smart person. Which, first of all, if you're here already, thank you so much for listening at this point. But I would say that, yeah, we're very, very serious about creating these fun experiences. Like I always say that we're very serious about fun. I would say that just, again, our mint is February 11th. Like Ledge said, like you will have a blast just from playing. But more than anything, what you're doing is you're getting exposure to RekTech, and you're getting exposure to us, our team, and our capabilities, and that's alpha. So even if you don't win a Pudgy Penguin, just by being involved and being a part of our community, by owning one or more of our assets, you are gonna win. So that's my It's my pitch.
Nice. NFA. I like it.
NFA.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm super excited to do, another episode, hopefully, probably, at the end of this year, after you have a bunch of these drops. I know some of the ideas, and I think crypto Twitter is gonna like eat them up. I think they could get way crazier than you guys are expecting, to be honest. Is my prediction, but we'll catch up on the next spot, and then we can have Miguel like clip this, and I just look, piggy brain. But awesome, guys. Yeah, always a pleasure. I'm really excited about this. Any final words?
Just Anil, thank you, man. Thanks for everything.
Awesome.
Value add
Appreciate it,
investor.
guys.
Right here. Value add.
Yeah, value add investor, dude. Number one, dude.
Talk soon, guys.
All right, take care, brother. Bye.
Bye.